The Twilight Garage podcast is brought to you by The Red Onion, the Bay Area's finest hamburgers, located at 11900 San Pablo Avenue in El Chorrito. Tell them Twilight Garage sent you.
Twilighters! Thank you so much for joining us. How you feeling, Case?
Good.
That's good.
Very good.
Hey, man, I've been really enjoying this whole music deal. I just get so groovy about it because I love to stir the pot about how good Charlie was being. You think about all the temptations, you think about all the bad shit they could have been doing, and he's over here playing some guitar with the homegirls, making some records. What does he do? Pulls in our guy, Terry Marshmallow.
Yep. Sorry about that, folks. I messed that up a couple episodes ago.
But I'm always down for a milkshake, so I'll play along. Yeah,
Terry Marshmallow.
So they pull the guy in. One of the greatest producers ever, him. And then, good Lord, it just goes on and on and on. So we're getting all this great feedback from the greatest people in the biggest part of the music industry. Like, I don't think that can be understated. Then we've got Chastity Shane.
Yeah, Charity Shane. Yeah.
Charity Shane.
Yep.
So that's AKA Gypsy Catherine Scher,
Yep.
a legit singer, a talented violinist. Okay. So then we've got Bobby Bosley, who's appeared with Albert Lee in the group Love, among other all-star people within the Hollywood music scene.
Good knowledge.
We've got Cappy here. She comes from the Buffalo Springfield camp, which brings in Stephen Stills, which brings in a guy who was acquainted with Charles Manson, who will never disavow Charlie's talent. And he gave Charlie a very expensive Triumph motorcycle at one point. So that shows for me that they had multiple meetings, that they had a bit of a relationship, and that Charlie sparked something special within Neil as a sensitive, cool person. So saying that, hearing all the accounts of him dancing to the Grateful Dead in electrifying rooms, all these different, wonderful, iconic, world famous individuals, dozens of whom have laid eyes on Charlie, many of whom had relationships.
Frank Zappa's another one.
His wife Gail had relationships with Charles Manson. That's extraordinary. And yet that part of this is so unexplored. And for me, super exciting because we love that rock and roll. And I listened back on some of the family jams and hey, I'm fairly impressed for how well some of it stands up. What do you think?
I mean, it's not particularly my genre of music, that folk, right? I've never been a fan of like Bob Dylan or even Neil Young, really, but to be fair, I mean, if people in the industry, some legends, if they're putting their stamp of approval on you and saying you're talented, there's got to be something to it. At the very least, Charlie was a good songwriter and lyricist, So, I mean, I don't want to diss him too hard.
I think with the editing, some of these things could have been quite workable. The one song that he kind of did, he at least repeated himself and it became more of a structured song in a traditional sense. Look at Your Game, Girl. And that's why allegedly it was his great recruiting tool. He would break out the acoustic guitar and play this one hypnotic melody. Right? Look at your game, girl. That's
that was the song, man. Yeah,
well,
I love that one.
They say that stuff, and it's kind of funny because I have a friend whose close friend's father drove one of the Lasso buses transporting Charlie oftentimes, and they were instructed never allow him to make eye contact with you. Ah, you know, things like that. It's just so overblown. And people would rather make a story up like that that's way more complicated instead of just rolling with the Occam's razor, which is the truth is always the most simple. So here's what it is, people. The guy was simply talented enough to be in consideration in the most competitive and meaningful commercial musical environment in the entire world.
He had a couple songs I thought that were pretty funny too, like Garbage Dump, right? And was it Mechanical Man?
Right.
I am a mechanical man.
Well, you know who put almost an identical song out a few years later? It was an incredibly successful composition in my mind. Devo. He was a precursor to certain punk rock messages that really resonated with me later. I consider myself, I'm not a hippie, I'm a punk. But growing up in Manson Valley there in Ridgecrest, California, and seeing the family and the children of the family grow up as spawn around me, you know, the messages were very similar. We had Darby Crash, then Charlie Manson. Same kind of gig, same kind of messianic feelings. We loved them. To try to explain it makes you sound like a cult member weirdo. And the music was a great binding agent and still is for all of us. Us folks get together, who've been friends for 40, 45 years, and we play the old music. That's the icing on the cake. That's when it's really us getting together, playing the old music. And I think it was the same for them. And I've always been a little bit confused. So I made a query to someone who was there yesterday, letting her know we were going to be talking about the choral folk group Family Jams, and that they recorded with Paul and Brooks. And I was wondering how it felt to be so close to being, you know, in a studio setting and actually produced. Because had the Bobby situation not gone down the way it had, you know, I feel there would have been more studio appearances of the family. What do you feel?
I agree. I mean, Melcher had already put money out and recorded Charlie multiple times. There were there's recordings that are out there that have never surfaced, right? There's one where Bobby Beausoleil talks about doing studio time in Santa Monica, where Bobby was playing background guitar. They ended up cutting his music out. He was just helping Charlie, you know, lay some stuff down.
Right.
But no, there were all kinds of people inviting him into studios to record, and it's pretty amazing.
And I was asking her about how close they were, how that must have felt, because you think about how much time and energy out of your daily life you've put into this thing. I personally, when my 2 television shows didn't happen, when my musical aspirations and thoughts, because I didn't understand how to put it together with the industry, and I wasn't gonna rally for myself. I wasn't gonna cheerlead for David Rogerson. I'm a great singer in the rock and roll world. I wasn't willing to do it. If you saw me and were like, Rogerson, I've got to sign you. Fuck yeah, let's do some business, babe. Same kind of unrealistic shit, right? So I was asking about being, you know, solid, but how was this a motivation for murder? I didn't necessarily see, you know, like, oh, I'm going to go kill somebody. But guess what? As part of something, as a, yeah, fuck it, just go up to Cielo. Could I see that? Sure. But this is all overshadowing the great energy that went into the group. So then I was asking about Brooks and Paul coming back and if that was weird. And it was really more for the movie, I'm understanding. It was
Hendrickson's film.
the recordings had happened much earlier, the dates of which 67 was some of the earlier recordings. A lot of these had happened in 68. And that's where some of the confusion comes, because the Lies record was in hand December of 69. Is that correct?
Yeah, they had a what? It was already published, or what's the word for album coming out?
Press. Released.
It was already released. Cool artwork, cover art. I liked it.
Yeah.
The Time magazine cover, the crazy Charlie face, right? With the
68 arrests.
They threw a lie over where it normally would say the magazine's name.
Yeah, they flipped a couple letters. Looked pretty good. So then I was under the mistaken impression that Brooks and Paul had been on the earlier recording, because that's what it appeared in the Hendrickson film. I never had a copy of Lies, so I didn't really look at the personnel too closely. But a lot of that was Grogan, right? There wasn't a whole lot of Charlie on the record, or was there? What is your feeling on?
I don't know, honestly, on that.
So please weigh in on that. I was being informed that Paul visited before the family knew what was going on and what he had been doing behind the scenes, which is bad talking the family, speaking of Manson in negative terms, but yet really promoting he and Poston and his group, Desert Sun.
Oh yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, Desert Sun.
So DeCarlo was doing the same thing. And then I was informed. I was saying, okay, so Grogan was a lot of the driver. And she says, yes, Grogan was on that recording and singing and playing guitar. I don't think Paul was there. So if it was before we knew. And then she clarifies that she wasn't involved in any of the vocal recording, and Sandy wasn't either. And I find that all very interesting because, again, there was a misperception on my part, and I don't know if that translated to other people as well, that Brooks and Paul were more involved in the Lies record than perhaps they had been.
I mean, I was wrong for a long time that a lot of this music that I had heard over the years that I thought was Charlie was actually these guys, right?
Yeah,
Grogan
pulled it off. And I'm trying to ascertain, that was one of my other questions I didn't get answered directly. Is, good Lord, if Grogan, as he said, truly only started playing guitar when he started hanging around the ranch as a teenager. So by 1969, 1970, so this is actually 69. Okay, so 1969. So less than 2 years, so a year of guitar playing, and that's how he sounded.
Wow.
And his vocalization with the music, sing and play.
He's right on the other side of the hills. He's 25 minutes away from here. I just wish we could get him here to talk even just about the music. He doesn't have to talk about anything else.
He doesn't. Here's the thing. Okay. That right there is such a word I want to remove from any conversation here involving us on Twilight. When you come here, guess what? Your family, we love you. You're part of our trip. And by you coming here, you're advocating for us. You're signing off on this. You don't know what we could do with it. And you're trusting us to be the righteous people that we are projecting ourselves into the world as being. You don't know the difference if we're really like this or not. So we're going to treat you with a lot of love and trust. You're going to talk about whatever you want to talk about. Steve Grogan. We've been talking about trying to get Danny DeCarlo on here. His trail runs hot and cold. There's some debate as to whether he died in Oregon a couple of years ago or not. And we're really going to try to get to the bottom of it because Our friend Bo Bushnell over at the Outlaw Archive has been a great example of how important it is to track people down, even when they really don't want to talk. Because, oh, I'm in a hospital bed with the oxygen thing, and you don't want to see me like this. And they get these stories. Bo gets stories that are absolute gold. And that's what these people need to start understanding. It's not about what you look like in your declining years. It's the stories and where you are in history that matters to
And what I
us.
found in interviewing these people over the years, just over the phone, is a lot of them right at the beginning, they don't want to talk. The idea of the thought in their head of talking terrifies them. But then once they start get going, then you can't shut them up. It's therapeutic,
fun.
right? They're trying to get this stuff out that they haven't talked about in years.
And that's what we're here for. And I think people like Diane Lake, who will actually be a guest on this show, is going to be one of those situations where she's a lady, I believe, who's really trying to put the stories together and just make sense of her life before we all check out. And that's what's a great opportunity here to talk about what Charlie was doing to try to make sense of his life in the music, because the Lies record is just such an epoch, and we need to move beyond that and really get into his incarcerated music. Now, that started fairly immediately, did it not?
He had a deal with the Beach Boys for $5,000 per song that he wrote.
Brother
in
Records.
jail. Yeah.
And again, this went through a lot of hands and through a lot of eyes of top industry professionals just there at Brother Records. You're talking about a dozen people who are at the top of the music industry reviewing whatever comes into their office. He was the first artist they signed. You based an entire record label on Charles Manson.
They at one point actually allegedly invited Charlie to open for them in Texas as a part of their tour in 1969.
I believe that to be true. It was turned down by the PO, right?
He had filed the paperwork with his parole officer.
Why would he do that if he wasn't going to go?
And the parole officer got the paperwork back to him so late that the Beach Boys had already left for on tour.
Right.
So he didn't violate parole. He could have gone off with them and just, said, I'll just wait and see. It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission,
Right.
But he didn't. He waited around, and that letter came I think 2 days too late.
And again, let me just say, as a person who's strived for success, why? Because I've worked really hard for things that meant a great deal to me. And a lot of those things have not worked out. That's why I'm with you here today. Right? Ow! Ow, that hurt. The Beach Boys are on tour. They put your song on their book. They want to give you money. And he didn't go to jail behind that. He didn't freak out. And again, Manson didn't run off and kill those people in the hills. It was the girls plotting. It was all this other stuff. He's sitting here biding his time. Okay, sorry. You're going to say something, but wait.
Right.
Itchy butthole. What would you have done? Come on, the Beach Boys, 2 days late. Wow. Damn it.
Yeah.
But seriously, is that?
And what's neat about it is the band wasn't put off by it. They weren't mad at him because
it was a legal thing.
Yeah. Into July of 69, they're still inviting him to record with Desper, right?
Yes.
Steven Desper, right?
Right.
And so
no
they haven't given up. And this is after the Bernard Crow shooting. So they were already under the they already know that Charlie was getting into some crazy stuff at this point, and they still hadn't given up on him.
Pen real quick, okay? Do you think that the Bernard Crow incident was the thing that maybe happened at the 4th Ranch? Because they had another backup ranch in the LA area, did they not?
Yeah, I get into that a little bit in the book. I'm still trying to do some research.
We don't have to expose the whole thing.
I don't want to say the name of the place yet until I confirm it. But yes, There's Myers Ranch, Barker Ranch, and Spawn Ranch, and there's a fourth ranch that I believe that they were
So
spending
there was
time.
a well at this ranch. Were aware in varying degrees of the Bernard Crowe situation. It was assumed that Bernard Crowe was dead. The body had not been brought up or reclaimed, except for some dead Black Panther that was allegedly found in Griffith Park. So we don't know if
It's
that
very
was
hazy, the whole thing, right?
Well, did people
Yeah.
even know that story at the time?
Yeah.
Or did Bugliosi put that together later through who knows? But
Mhm.
point being, were they willing to overlook that? And do you think that those two things got confused, those two crimes?
Oh, big time. I mean, Mike Love, which is a part of the Beach Boys,
Right, big time.
says that, Dennis told him that Charlie cut this black cat in half with his gun, right?
Yeah.
And, blew this guy away and stuffed him down a well.
Yeah, two pieces.
Yeah, some people say it happened at Spawn Ranch. There is no well at Spawn Ranch. There's a little tiny, what would you call that? Like a 1 foot maybe in circumference.
Those are cisterns.
Yeah, you couldn't stuff anybody down there by any means.
That was like a cistern.
There's this rumor that this guy got stuffed like 2 miles south of Spawn Ranch. I don't know. It's very hazy.
Yeah, so they always want to ascribe these very, very complicated stories to simple things that happened, like Charles Manson having enough talent to actually record music. So then other people saw it in him throughout the years, even in prison. So I know Henry Rollins.
That was a big one in the
even
80s.
got involved.
Right?
Now,
Yeah.
Do you know much about that? Have you heard much of that music?
No, I haven't. I do believe that some of his prison music has reached the society. Basically, it's gotten out. Little recordings here and there. His ownership of a guitar in prison was totally inconsistent. He probably had a dozen guitars between 1969 and his death that got either destroyed, confiscated. He even tells a story about one time. It's actually one of my favorite stories. And I actually confirmed this from other people that were in the protective housing unit at the time. At Corcoran State Prison, you have your SHU, which is the segregated or special housing unit.
Yep.
And then you have, which are guys that are being punished, right? It's solitary confinement. Then you have your protective housing unit, which are inmates that are so vulnerable to being killed by the general population that they have to put these guys in. This is where the worst of the worst were.
So it's either due to your infamy,
Yep.
or just due to your hated status due to what your crime was.
So guys like Sirhan, Juan Corona, Rodney Alcala, these guys were in the PHU, Protective Housing Unit, with Charlie. Now, between these two buildings, there's a yard that is shared, but they only it's like recess. They only let the SHU guys into the yard at a time. And then when their time's up, now the PHU guys go into the yard. Well, the SHU guys propped the door open or somehow rigged it to where the latch wasn't completely closed. So when these PHU guys are out there in the yard, Charlie's playing his guitar. All of a sudden, the SHU guys come busting through the door and just they're looking to kill these guys, right? And so Charlie actually had to drop his guitar, run back into the cell block, ran into his cell, is yelling, "Guards, close my door!" Shut the door. And there were actually some really infamous guys that took bad beatings, like Juan Corona and
he got lumped.
Oh yeah, and these guys in the SHU just took the remnants of Charlie's guitar. They're like pocketing, wire strings and the hardware because they want to fashion it into weapons.
For sure, they're not even worried about souvenirs. Charlie Manson's guitar. They're like,
yeah, no.
Yeah, we're gonna use them as murder weapons. Yeah, that's crazy because that story, when I heard it, it sounded like they busted in his cell, grabbed his guitar and just smashed it up. And I was, as a person who was just going through my daily life back then, I was like 90s or something.
Yeah, I picture him, and I don't know if it's true, but sitting on those like little aluminum bleachers,
Oh, right.
or
Yeah, the
wood
prison
bleachers,
bleachers,
right? And he's just up there, and he has a couple guys that are listening to him play, and I just see all these maniacs, Mexican mafia.
the Visigoths.
They're just like full on, like
the Visigoths. And he's up there playing the whole talk story, brah intro. Ba-doop, ba-boo, ba-doo, 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 ba-doo.
Yeah.
And then here they come. Ah! And he's out. But yeah, I just was like, because I just was thinking about the outro of the Helter Skelter movie.
Mm-hmm.
Garbage dump. My garbage dump. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ah!
And then it blows me away too when you look at, there was a prison in Tracy, California. It's up here kind of by us, called Dual. And it was more low security. Grogan and Bosley were there at that together. And there's video on YouTube of these guys playing a full-on concert on a stage, electrical speakers and amps and everything, and they're dressed in normal civilian clothes.
I love Beausoleil's bell bottoms. He had a nice guitar and he's all rocking that old Skinner. Remember they played a bunch of Skinner and shit? Man.
Yeah, so Charlie's experience was never like that. He was never able to play that formal of a show. But
dude,
they do talk.
Busted almost fucking killed and run back. But he was buddies, I thought, with Ron Corona, from what I've read, who may have been unjustifiably convicted. There was another guy allegedly who went back to Mexico, and my ex-wife knew the Corona family fairly well, and in Fairfield, California, and maintains Juan Corona's innocence. But they were buddies, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was in there with a lot of infamous, inmates over the years. I mean, he was at Folsom Prison, one cell over from Timothy Leary. And they didn't like each other, allegedly.
No, because Timothy Leary's a bit of a poofter.
Yeah.
And Charlie's about the get down.
And then later on, I mean, modern history, and let's just say Charlie's last 10 years, he was in with some really bad guys. He took a horrible beating from a guy. I think his name is Mark Roberts, but I can't remember. It's a guy that did some really horrible crimes, murders down in San Diego.
He was like an enforcer.
Yeah, man.
And he kind of got the draw.
Guy.
Well, they would do things, for those that don't know, in prison, there are certain codes and certain people who have the keys to the building, who run the yard and stuff like that, have edicts that they'll make for different outlines and guidelines of their particular group that are not widely known to the public at large. Well, some of the bylaws will state things like somebody like Charlie or somebody who's got something going on needs to be regulated on, or needs to be hurt on site for various reasons. And some of it has nothing to do with what the inmate may have done, but rather to further the profile of the group they're members of. So Charlie often found himself in all kinds of political undercurrents. And he's this guy who's internationally famous. He's trying to just play some music. And like you say, he can't even properly own a guitar on a consistent basis. And we've just looked at so much correspondence of his. After a while, you just go numb to him bitching about not having a guitar. It's just this, well, Your Honor, well, Warden, well, this guy, well, that guy. You're just like, oh, let me guess, it's about the fucking guitar again. And it's insane the repetition these prisoners get put through.
And from what, I mean, a legend has it that Corcoran built that unit for Charlie. It costs like over $1 million to build. And I think its capacity is like 28 people, but they try to keep it around 20 to 21 at a time. More recently, probably one of the most famous people that you guys might know of that is now housed there as the Golden State Killer. Yeah.
Yeah, he's come into prominence. But if we look at these situations, one of the big questions I've always had is for these people to be such freewheeling anti-government people who are living off the fat of the land and the generosity of the people. How many, I don't even know if it's tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars this particular group of individuals have cost the taxpayer.
Oh yeah, tons of. I mean, this guy that my other case, the Michaela
No, I mean
Garrett.
just Charles Manson.
Oh, I know.
And
but,
what we're talking about.
well, I mean, for example,
okay,
when
the Michaela Garrett case.
Yeah, I won't even go to that yet.
Okay.
I mean, like it's San Francisco when they were going to look into when they were going to file charges against Bruce Davis for some potential Zodiac crimes.
Right.
Allegedly, it was going to cost. This was right after Grogan was. Bruce Davis was convicted down in L.A. They said it was going to cost in 1970-71 $2 million just to convict Grogan up in Northern California.
That's $12 million. And you mean Davis in Northern California?
Davis, I'm sorry, Davis.
Don't worry about it. We do that here on occasion, you guys. Don't freak out.
Yeah.
It's fine. We'll flip a first name, whatever.
Yeah.
Straighten it out in the comments. By the time this show matters, AI will have fixed it. If you guys looked at the Ask AI thing about this show, dude.
In my other case, my other book that I'm working on, the state's just paid for 2.5 months last year the representation of David Mish, my dear friend, fantastic defense attorney out of Alameda, Ernie Castillo.
All right. You've talked about Ernie quite a bit.
Fantastic guy.
Shout out.
Man of God. And
praise be.
The talented Deputy District Attorney, Alameda County, Allison Donovan, another one of my dear friends.
He is pretty effing cool.
So for 2.5 months, these two amazingly talented litigators are fully being paid by the state.
Right.
Both ends, right? You're also having to deal with the judge, the court clerk, the bailiff, the sheriffs, and this jury.
And the lights.
That's being 2.5 months, man.
Yeah, and the lights.
And that was just the first trial. That was the trial. That was him getting convicted for Michelle Xavier and Jennifer Dewey's murder.
Ooh.
Now they're going to probably, by the end of this year, it's going to be another 2.5 months for this Michaela Garrett trial.
See, we're talking $12 million each situation. It's just absolutely crazy the way things operate. But yet we've got Charles Manson, international, just revered or reviled guy, depending on who you talk to. And he's got these wonderful, internationally loved musicians who are hoping to collaborate with them. I just find that fascinating. Mm-hmm. The enduring charisma and like you say, at least good basic songwriting skills that he acquired and retained throughout the years. Now, you know a bit more about his later prison music. Now, what are your thoughts on some of those pieces?
Some of it are covers of his original stuff, but then he also came out with new material as well. And Jason Hay is going to be the guy for us to talk to about that for sure. There are people that are much more knowledgeable, even Nicholas Schreck here, that this is what they're into. They are musicians themselves and have an appreciation that honestly I just don't have, for music in general. It's just not my gig.
He's weird, dude.
Yeah,
he's weird like that.
Paul Jacobs is one of those guys that loves the music, so he talks about it a lot on Paulcast.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, so, PJ, is that his last name? Van Styler?
Well, I don't know. That's what Van Styler went by before, but I don't know if it's his name.
I have like dyslexia and shit.
Yeah.
So I saw his name and it was Van Style. So
Van Styler is a cool nickname.
He's the Van Styler, bro. Like I always just see him. I always see him in like a Michelangelo's cherub outfit. You know what I mean? Like floating in a cloud on the side of a van. So when I say Van style, I see Paul floating by on a.
I see it in that Van Halen and Jack Leopard,
Oh,
right?
yeah. 80s, 80s hot rock ham rocker.
Yeah.
Well,
Van style.
we have digressed, but the point being, I believe in the true talent that was Charles Manson as a musician. I think his followers, who were actually his compatriots and friends, believed in that talent as well and contributed to it. I think sometimes it was just natural friendship and it was very innocent and matter of fact. I think there were other relationships that Charlie did pursue and defend and try to cultivate because of the outside talent he was bringing in that could further the project. And I don't think that was, I think he did love Beausoleil, but I think he needed Beausoleil. I think that's why he thought that the copycat murders were a bad idea. But I think, guess what? His backup group wants Beausoleil out. He's the anchor guitar guy. He's got 4 of us pregnant. We want him out. And Charlie's like, I don't want any of it. So then, but you've got this group and they have all this work and they're trying to do a thing.
The family jams.
And it's pretty incredible. And I'm going to leave it there because I'm hoping by the time you all are watching this, Jason Hay will be like, David Rushing, pass that peace pipe. And be excited about coming on and get over some of these copyright blues we've been having and enjoy some of Charlie's music. In the meantime, I recommend just start with the first cut right off of the Lies record, Raw Hideaway. I mean, that's kind of a fun, rollicking song. I think if you look at them sing it in the Hendrickson film, there's like a video accompaniment.
Yeah, you could probably find all this music on YouTube.
Oh, there's no probably about it.
Yeah.
Just pull it right up. I listen to it all the time. That's why I wasn't as versed as I normally would be on the personnel because I don't have the record in front of me. And that little point of information has been broken. Twilighters, we love you. Thank you to my great contributor who helped clean a lot of this up for us. And we want to acknowledge the people we've lost. We've got friends, we've got family. Some of our great commenters and contributors here have lost some people recently. We want to know you're in our thoughts and prayers. And again, Twilighters, thanks for keeping it family. Thanks for keeping it civil. And you know what? You're going to get used to things being done in a good-natured way for the right reasons in love. It's just going to be amazing.